and has this. What you said makes me believe that idea of you can't compare traumas because, would you say that those perhaps in the higher socioeconomic group would still experience difficulty the same way, although that difficulty may appear different on the outside?
Yeah, I think the nature of the challenges can be different on the surface, but deeper down, it's the same types of psychological challenges. So when my students go back and they look and they say, well, these Harvard students, they were so privileged, they must not have faced particular challenges. And why don't you read a little bit about their lives? And, what you find is that people were dying. People experienced loss at much greater numbers earlier in their life than we do as a generation. So, many students will go through their entire up to their sort of mid-20s, not knowing what it's like to lose someone, to know someone close who dies. If you grew up in the 1910s and 20s, people died around you, siblings died, people died in childbirth. So exposure to adversity certainly it was impacted by the nature of the environment that you grew up in, but knowing that a loss is a loss, being able to recognize that when you're close to someone, what that experience feels like, the gut punch that it feels like when you lose someone who's so close to you, and how long it can take to mourn that person, and what the right pathway forward is. Those are things that most people get to know at some point. The actual experience might feel differently. It might be because of, things that have to do with our lot in life or dangers that we get exposed to. So the poor inner city kids grew up in areas, for example, where there's much greater exposure to lead and other toxins. So those kinds of physical challenges, less likely to be experienced by the wealthier part of the sample. But everyone knows what it's like to worry about bodily harm. At some point, that's, we all get exposed to that, whether it's through driving or through a bad incident that we have with another person. So I think, again, at a level beneath the surface, I'm not sure I would agree with that idea that all traumas are unique, that there's a kind of set of traumas that create certain kinds of psychological strains that are pretty common. And as a therapist, we rely on that knowledge, right? If someone comes to us and says, you probably haven't had this experience, but this is what's happened to me, and it's destroyed my life. It's likely I haven't had that experience, but it's likely that I've listened to other people who have had experiences that are similar enough, or myself, I can experience what that might be like in a peripheral part of my life as opposed to a central part of my life.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.